A teacher in Virginia was fired for refusing to use transgender students' pronouns and is launching legal action. What's interesting about this story, because we've heard it a million times, is that in this instance, it seemed to have been an accident. Something happened, some scuffle broke out, and the teacher referred to the individual as her. The person got angry. He said, oh, it was a reflex. Didn't matter. Did not matter. I don't know how we actually how do we actually solve this problem? If somebody wants to be called something, we have to adhere to that. That's violating someone else's speech rights. Now, you have to consider, this is a teacher. I'm wondering if it was a public school or private school, but that would make a big difference. But in a public school, wouldn't you not be allowed to do this because you have to adhere to public law? Like, private institutions have more leeway. They can say whatever they want, and they can act in certain ways because it's not funded by the public. But if you're a public school teacher, can the government really censor your speech? It's an interesting question. Well, let's read this, and there's actually two stories here. The other is that a Christian doctor has lost a case. I believe this was in the UK. The doctor refused to call an individual a female pronoun, and he said that he refuses to refer to any 6-foot-tall bearded man as madam. And so this has sparked a bit of an outrage, resulting in Christian pushback. British court in transgender case, Bible belief is incompatible with human dignity. But let's read about the United States, because I'm interested in the free speech argument. So the Independent reports, a Virginia high school teacher has filed a lawsuit after being fired for refusing to use a transgender student's pronouns, arguing he is being discriminated against for his faith. Peter Vlaming, who worked as a French teacher at West Point High School, said he would use the student's chosen name, as well as a French equivalent they had picked out after his parents revealed their son's transition to the school. I think it's important to point out this is a biological female. However, the teacher refused to refer to the female using male pronouns, while continuing to use female pronouns when talking about them to other students and members of... I got to stop right now and say this is one of the big problems with how confusing this whole thing is. Listen, man, if I know you, I have no problem calling you whatever you want to be called, but this is a serious problem. Now, they want to act like it's not, but a teacher got fired. There was an interesting quote, and I found it was really fascinating. They is doing really well. That's the question. If we're using they as a singular, would we use syntax in a singular fashion as well? They is doing great. They, them is, it doesn't seem to make sense. The argument then is to use the plural defaults, but then you're asking someone to use plurals. The bigger issue is that the average individual is going to default to a knee-jerk reaction because language is built in us as we grow, and they're just trying to change it overnight. If I saw somebody that I thought was male, I would say he or him, and I saw someone that looked female, I'd say she or her. And that could mean it could be a trans man, I call he or him too. You see the issue here? The issue is that we're coming to a point where there's non-binary trans, and you can't demand someone call you something. It's been a trope in comedy forever that a guy refers to, a woman as sir or a man as she. It's been a common thing, and it's a source of I don't know, it's silliness to an extent. But now we're at a point where people are demanding someone use their pronouns, and this is the confusing thing for me. Let me read. The teacher refused to refer to him using male pronouns while continuing to use female pronouns when talking about them to other students and members of staff. That just confused me, and that's why I stopped. Refusing to him. Wait, why did they say them? Are they talking about more than one person now? If they said him in the first place and them later, I don't understand what they're saying. The teacher refused to refer to him while continuing to use female pronouns when talking about him. Why did they change it to them? That would change to a plural. You see the problem here? I understand that they has been singular, and I think it's silly that our conservatives are confused by they in singular context. But they in singular context is usually used when information is lacking. In this instance, information is not lacking, and you have absolutely every chance to use a singular. But when I see it used after a singular, I can only assume now you're talking about multiple people, and I don't understand the context. I can try to assume, but that presents a potential pitfall for me. I'm trying to break this down and understand it, you see. In court filings, representatives for Mr. Vlaming said referring to the student with his preferred pronouns was a breach of his freedom of speech and against his religious beliefs, arguing that his faith prohibits him from intentionally lying. The filing for Vlaming v. West Point School Board, which repeatedly refers to the student using female pronouns, adds, "It is Mr. Vlaming's sincerely held belief that referring to a female that held belief that referring to a female, they must repeat this on accident, as a male is untruthful and prohibited by his faith and conscience. The flashpoint for the dismissal, according to the legal document, was a class on Halloween 2018 in which students were using virtual reality goggles. Foreseeing a potential incident involving the student, the teacher called out to a classmate, "Don't let her hit the wall." After class, he approached the teacher saying, "Mr. Vlaming, you may have your religion, but you need to respect who I am. You will never see me bend the knee to anybody." Look, it seems like he made the statement in passing and went on to apologize, saying, he apologized, telling the student it was an involuntary response and adding, "I'm sorry, this is difficult," according to filings. He was later reprimanded by the school principal, who told him, "You know what you do to diffuse a situation like that? You say, 'I'm sorry, I meant to say him.'" He did apologize and said it was an involuntary response. Like most people, when a biological female comes up and says, "Call me he," you might be like, "Oh, I'm sorry, it was an accident." That's literally what he did. It was just a knee-jerk, I just see somebody, I say it. This guy got fired for that. That's the incident in question. The incident appeared to have been the final straw after several concerns were raised with the school officials relating to his treatment of the student in December. The following day, Mr. Vlaming was suspended before being removed from his post after a 5.5-hour hearing. Now, his legal representation claims the government has forced Mr. Vlaming to express ideas about human nature unrelated to the school's curriculum that he believes are false, and to take sides in an ongoing public debate about gender dysphoria. Right? Apparently, the teacher said he would just refer to the student by their name, basically saying, "I don't want to be involved in the politics, so I'll just call you your name. Does that work for you?" Apparently it doesn't, because he wants you to bend the knee. I'll tell you what. If we're going to play a game of made-up words to the point where you're going to fire somebody, I have a really simple solution. Can we just make up a word that is gender neutral and refers to anybody at any time, and you can just say it? We don't need to use they, them, because there's an argument over syntax. How about we just use, like, flurb? It's a random word. I'm sorry. I'm going to do that, right? I made this point on Twitter, and everyone said I was joking. I'm not joking. How do I know what your pronoun is? How do I know if someone's going to get mad about it? I understand most people won't be, and I can respect that. But what about this circumstance where this person lost their job because they were like, "I just don't know what to do"? Because I'll tell you this, I assure you some people will be offended if you go, whichever way you go, you're going to offend somebody. So what is the average person supposed to do? If he referred to a female with male pronouns, you're going to find conservatives get angry. Apparently, a bunch of students protested this. That's what I heard. I could be wrong, but I read a story about a walkout after he got fired where people were holding signs saying men are men, women are women. And now everyone's angry. Great. There was literally nothing he could have done. The culture war has become absolutely insane. I think it comes down to one issue. I'll give you the respect you ask for if you've earned it. If you want me to call you whatever name, I'll call you whatever name. But for the most part, you cannot force someone else to say something. There are certain to call you something, I should say. If it's your name, I think it's fair to say refer to the person by their name. But when you're talking about something like pronouns and this public debate and what's happening, you're demanding someone change their interpretation of the world and the language they use. And I think that's incredibly dangerous and a violation of the First Amendment. They say, the teacher is being represented by lawyers for the Alliance Defending Freedom, a legal advocacy operation identified as a hate group by the Southern Poverty Law Center, which means basically nothing to me. The ADF refute the claim. The complaint adds, defendants gave Mr. Vlaming an ultimatum. Use male pronouns for this female student or lose your job. Excuse me. Mr. Vlaming could not violate his conscience and cost him his job. A spokesperson for West Point Schools told the Washington Post it would vigorously defend against the claim. You know what, man? We're a nation built upon you can't tell me what to do. And even, to a certain extent, even some Canadians. But Canada does have that a bit, but it was very different. The United States was like, we declared a revolution, okay? We said, no, we will govern ourselves. You will not tell us what to do. We are people who left. And I'm talking about the founding fathers and those who came here and colonized, because I understand the United States was colonized by much more than just, England. But for the most part, the founding of the U.S. was built upon the English colonists saying, no, you're not going to tell me what I can or can't do. And that's why we have a Bill of Rights. And that's why if someone comes to me and says, you must, I will say, you can't tell me what I can or can't do, okay? And I'll agree with Jordan Peterson's point, from several years ago. I can speak the way I want. Peterson said, I have no problem calling you whatever pronoun you prefer, but you can't force me by law to do it. taking away someone's job over this is the opposite of winning hearts and minds. And it's only going to cause problems in the long run. But you know what? So be it. This is the world we're entering, and it's the world we deserve because it's the world we built. We can blame past generations, whatever, but it's here. So we're going to have to deal with it and figure it out. I don't know how you solve this problem if someone's going to apologize and say it was involuntary and they fire him over this, because that just seems twisted. So whatever, man. Stick around. Next segment's coming up tomorrow at 10 a.m. Podcast at 6:30, and I'll see you all next time.